What's up YouTube fam, this is Wesley and welcome back to the channel. So if you don't know, I'm currently a contract UX designer, which means that I'm working for a company for a certain period of time until we mutually part ways. My current contract is actually coming to an end pretty sadly, so I thought now would be a good time to share with you guys about my experience and then more specifically talk through about some of the pros and cons that I've seen as a contract UX designer. So I feel like contract positions, it usually kind of gets a bad rap just because it's kind of correlated with having an unsafe and unstable job where you probably won't get the full benefits that you might receive from a full-time employment, which is kind of the reason why people won't even look at contract positions at all. When I decided to quit my full-time job for a contract one, I had a lot of different reactions from different people, some of them coming up to me and being like, whoa, Wesley, why would you quit your full-time job for a contract one, as if I'm downgrading my career somehow. Even with the certain cons that do exist as a contractor, I think that there are actually a lot of upsides as well that can help you grow in your career as a UX designer. It's just a matter of how flexible you are in your career and your life, and if you're kind of open-minded to see where contract positions can possibly take you. So with that being said, I wanted to provide a little more knowledge, clarity, and insights from my experience being a contractor, and then list out some of the pros and cons so that way you can decide if this can be a good fit for yourself. So let's first start off with the pros, all the good stuff. Number one, you get paid a lot higher than a full-time employee. Yes, this is correct. A lot of people don't know this, but you do actually get paid pretty well as a contractor. From what I researched and looked into, you do get paid a lot more just because you don't receive that full benefit that you might receive as a full-time employee. So that's to kind of help balance things out and help cover for that. Number two, you're given the flexibility to work with various companies and on different projects. Let's just say that you're the type of person who gets bored very easily, especially when you're working for the same company, industry, and on the same projects, and you like to be able to work on a lot of different things. Then I would say contract position is actually a good fit for you. You basically can decide to work for a certain company for a set period of time, and then once that's done, then you decide to work for another company which may be in a complete different industry and that has different products. So for example, for 6 months, I could work for a retail company, and then once that contract ends, I move to a company that's surrounded around fintech and work for them for 4 months. And then the next 3 months, I get to work for a FANG company. This basically gives you the opportunity to really diversify your career, experience, and portfolio. Number three, you get to work with companies that you might not have a chance to work for if you were applying for a full-time position. For example, with my current skills and experience, I'm not sure if I'm competitive enough to work for like a top FANG company such as Meta as a full-time employee. Not only is it a very competitive company where a lot of other designers obviously wants to work for them as well, you also have to go through a very intensive interview process that can last between a month, 2 months, or even longer. Now, if Meta was looking for a contract UX designer, that process might actually be a little bit easier and quicker. For contract positions, they're usually looking for a designer to come in and help out fairly quickly for a set period of time. And they're not taking too much time to really think through if you're a good fit for the company long term. Full-time positions, they're not usually in a rush to find someone, but contracts, they are looking to bring in someone fairly quickly. So for those following reasons, the interview process for a contract position can go through fairly quickly. You might even be able to land a job as short as 2 weeks. Lastly, there is an opportunity for a contract extension or a full-time conversion. For contract extensions, that usually happens if the contract needs more work, so the contract gets extended and they want you to continue working on that project instead of having you leave and then bringing on another contract UX designer who's fairly new to the space. Now, for a full-time conversion, this can happen if the company feels like you can be a good long-term commitment and fit for the company and team. So as long as you do your job and you put in the good work, they can offer you a full-time position. But one quick note, with the contract extension or even full-time conversion, this is not guaranteed at all whatsoever. Even though that may come up early in the conversation with your recruiter or even with the manager, I just wouldn't put all your eggs into one basket. So you gotta be willing to have your plan B, C, or D, however many you need in order to have your next job lined up. All right, I've talked about some of the good stuffs about having a contract position. Now let's talk about the cons, all the bad stuff. Number one, the top thing that does come to mind is that there is no job stability or security. You're agreeing to work for a company for a specific period of time, and then once that contract finishes, you have to go ahead and look for the next job. And this can be a bit chaotic as you have to kind of put yourself back out there into the job market and look for the next best fit for yourself. I don't think I have to explain to you guys how stressful that can be, especially if you're going through the job hunt under a time crunch. Now, if you had a full-time job, you can hold on to that job indefinitely while you're looking for the next opportunity. But with contract, once it ends, you're jobless. So you're trying to plan and do everything you can to find that next job and have that lined up right after the contract ends. One thing I will say is that if the recruiter from the employment agency that gave you the position, if they do their job right and if they're in consistent communication with you, they'll actually help you out during this transition period where they should come to you with other contract positions that are available. So that way you can plan ahead and have another job lined up as soon as the current contract ends. My quick suggestion is that it's probably best to start looking for your next role about 2 to 3 months before the contract end date. Number 2, most of the time you will receive no benefits. And that means there's a good chance that you won't receive the health, vision, and dental insurance, the 401k plan, or PTO. Now, if you're lucky, you might find an employment agency that at least offers the insurance part, so the health, dental, and vision. But getting the 401k and the PTO, that I would say is very highly unlikely. And that's the reason why you get paid higher as a contractor. Also, if the company that you're working for has any internal benefits or discounts, you probably won't get those either because you're not considered an internal employee. So for example, during my time at Dick's Sporting Goods, I would receive discounted gym membership. I would receive discounts at the Dick's Sporting Goods stores. But if I was to work for them as a contractor, I don't get any of those. Also, since you're not an internal employee, you won't be included in any of the company events or happenings. So if the company decides to do a town hall event, a special employee announcement, or even a company party or event, you won't be included in any of that, sadly. Now, all of this exclusivity may make you feel like an outsider, to be honest. And that's all dependent on the manager or the team you're working for and how much they include you. All right, last but not least, you might not be given that long-term mentorship or long-term plan for your career growth. Because you're not staying at a company long-term, it's hard for a manager to really help map out your long-term career goals and plan. They'll help you plan out the duration of your contract in terms of the work that you might be doing or the things that you might be designing. But career-wise, that's kind of a bit of a different story. Usually the company wants you to come in, do your work, and get out. Honestly, this really depends on your manager. They may be really helpful and supportive of your position, but they may not necessarily be helpful when it comes to your career and your long-term plans. This is where I would say that you would have to initiate these type of conversations through your one-on-ones or your coffee chats. I highly recommend that you come into these conversations with topics around your career. Talk to them about your long-term plans or ask them good questions around career growth. Well, those are all the pros and cons that I can think of as a contract UX designer. I'd say if you're in a position where you're looking for a job, I definitely encourage you guys to consider a contract position as a way to really grow in your career and get a new UX experience. If you're single, you don't have a family, you're feeling kind of adventurous with the different industries and products that are out there, or if you're feeling a little daring, I would say a contract position is the right fit for you. If you need something stable, you got a family, and you got big financial responsibilities, then maybe a contract position is not the best fit for you. And that's up to you guys to decide based off of where you're at in your life, in your career, and your experience. I hope this was helpful for you guys. Would love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment sections. Did I miss any pros or cons? Please list them out. Let's have a civilized conversation. Thanks again for watching to the end. I will see you guys in the next video, and peace out.